Hello guys, it's been 123 and I'm back with another Reddit video, and today I'm doing an r/slash NuclearRevenge. And before I start, I just want to say thank you for all the views and that 67.2% like to dislike ratio. Oh, so crazy. Gotta love doing controversial stuff for clout. Anyways, let's get into the video. First story is about how a student gets yelled at by a teacher and then he gets the best possible revenge and gets her fired. Second is about what happens when you're trapped in, when you get blocked in by a car and you just want to get out. Lastly is a crazy story, how a crazy boy gets violent to a random boy and they square up to each other. Hope you guys like, comment, subscribe. I have a new Discord, I'm gonna leave the link below. Let's get straight into the video. This is titled My Sweet Revenge on My 6th grade English Teacher. Okay, so this story is about my 6th grade English teacher. I was in school and she comes up to yell at me for no reason. This continues for 2 months. This was the time I was going to get revenge. I meet up with my friends the next Saturday to make up a plan about how to get revenge on her for shouting at me so much. Some hours pass and we make up a plan. The plan was good, so good. It was about getting thumbtacks and putting them on her seat. Monday comes and we organize everything. She comes into the class and she sits on her chair. As per usual, her face changed from a smile to a cry. At the same time, I was recording with my MP3 player. Every shouting she had done to me, I go to the principal's office and show the principal the recordings. She got fired about 3 days later. Damn, that is evil. All I have to say to that is, that's fantastic. Or should I say, fumtastic? I'm a nerd. Gotta make those punny pun jokes. But to get the teacher fired, good on you. But I have to say, if you haven't learned English and that was your English teacher, you kind of have to play yourself because you don't know English and you got her fired. This one's titled, Dad's friend 4x4 is parked in, so he pushes the car out of the way. I don't know if this quite qualifies as nuclear revenge, but I hope so. This is my first post ever and it's pretty short. So, my dad's friend was once out doing something in Sydney and returned to his friend's large car, 4x4, parked in. He tried for about 30 minutes trying to maneuver out, also hoping that the car's owner would return. Unfortunately, they didn't. He wasn't happy and wanted to leave, so he had the great idea to leave with the force. He got in the big car and pushed the car out of the way until he could squeeze out. My dad doesn't remember if he got in trouble or not. And my response to this is, beep beep, get off me car. I could just imagine a large car just coming over, just go brr, brr. Imagine the damages that must have caused. I remember watching the Chinese lady doing this. She was blocked in when the car wasn't meant to park behind her and went boom into it. And if I'm honest, my mum has done a hit and run. She smacked the side window by someone and I was a child. I told her to go, 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 go. And we got destroyed because someone told on us and they found out where we lived. Horrible story. This one's titled, Jackpot Kid Attacks Me. A year later, he tries again. I'm not 100% sure whether this was the right subreddit for this story, but I figured that this was probably the best place since it involves a lot of violence. If it does end up getting taken down, I'll probably put it in a different revenge subreddit. So, this probably starts when I was in the 2nd grade. I was at a party for Cub Scouts, a feeder for the Boy Scouts, which was at one of the local elementary schools in their main auditorium, meaning it was packed. This is important. I was just standing around, eating a piece of cake when I felt a sharp pain on the back of my neck. I turned around to see this one kid I recognized trying to slip back into the crowd. He was a year older than me, so I hadn't had very much interaction with him, so he had no previous beef with me. I later found out what he did was he stabbed me in the back of the neck with a plastic fork, and the reason for it wasn't out of anger or hate. He was just pucked up in the head and couldn't stop himself from doing stupid poop and hurting people. Since it was so crowded, A lot of people had seen what had happened, including my dad, who was pissed. He stomped over to the kid and confronted him about it, and this kid starts spewing out lies. I didn't do it, it was self-defense, etc. Pretty soon this kid's dad came over and asked what was wrong, and after my dad told him, this guy looked just as pissed as my dad. Apparently he had let his son come to this as another chance to improve his behaviour, and his son had completely blown his trust. He then dragged his screaming hellspawn out into the night, and since he didn't come to any more Cub Scouts meetings, I thought I wouldn't have to deal with him again. Boy, was I wrong. About a year has passed since this incident, so I hadn't been thinking about it too much, at least not until I heard other stories about this kid. Apparently he had caused trouble for a number of my friends, but everyone had a grudge against him. I still didn't worry about him too much, since I felt like he was out of my life now. It was mostly just mutual sympathy amongst all of the kids who had to deal with this guy's poop. I had started going to this weird cross between a school daycare and a workout place. It had a lot of cool things like a bouncy house, a jungle gym, and other things that I enjoyed, but they would make you run laps and do things like push-up after you played for a while, which I hated. Most of this doesn't matter a whole ton, but I still think that it's good to give an idea of where I was. Another thing worth noting was the adult supervision was terrible at this place, which allowed all sorts of things to happen that would get you suspended from a school, but would either go unnoticed or they would give you a slap on the wrist. Which why what was about to happen was able to occur. One day, I was hanging out in the balcony house with a bunch of guys I didn't really know since none of my close friends were there that day. I was actually having a pretty good time until a much hated face poked through the bouncy house entrance. It was that same kid who stabbed me the year before and had messed with a bunch of my friends, and as soon as he saw me, he sneered and yelled, "Remember me?" What happened for the next 10 to 15 minutes was him constantly switching between harassing me and bragging to the other kids about what he had done the year before. I was gradually getting more and more pissed off at this point, but since I am not a confrontational person, I didn't really do anything at first to stand up to him. However, before I could be pushed to my breaking point, this guy's psycho instincts kicked and he lunged at me, and thus our fight began. While this guy was a year older than me, I was still a lot bigger than him, going to show how much of an aggressive psychopath this guy was. As soon as I found out his bark was much worse than his bite in this situation, he wasn't very good at a straight up fight, which was why he mainly hurt people by taking them by surprise. So I had a huge advantage. I was beyond angry and feeling of hate. Self-perseverance and self-righteousness had taken control, and I held nothing back, resorting to things like biting, choking, and other ways to hurt him as much as possible. At this point, it wasn't just anger about what he had done to me, but it was also for everyone he had bullied, harassed, and injured in his absolute train wreck of a life. None of the other kids did anything to stop us and even cheered this on, thinking of it as free entertainment, turning this into an elementary school fight club. By the time the dust settled, he was lying on the ground in pain while I stood on top of him with my arms over my head as a sign of victory. I normally don't like hurting people, so this was uncharacteristic of me to act like this, but it really felt like a victory for me. I had not only beaten the poop out of him, I had humiliated him in front of all the other kids he had been poop talking me to, and also got him kicked out of the daycare. I'm not sure if it was the people who ran the place who did this or the dad, but it turned out that he had done something before to get kicked out and he was being given a second chance, which he of course blew by doing this. I, on the other hand, was only not allowed back in the bouncy house for the rest of the day, so I got away with it mostly scot-free. My parents weren't angry with me either and said that they were happy I defended myself and stood up to a bully. The aftermath of this was he never messed with me again, with him only giving me quick glances in our school hallways. I later found out that he actually went to the same school as me, I just hadn't seen him before the fight. I told my friends about what happened and they congratulated me for what I had done. For them, it was not only my victory, but theirs as well, since they hated him too. I continued to tell this story for years and found out even from different people about all of the crazy poop he had done and got even more praise. Again, I usually don't like hurting people, but to this day it is deeply satisfying to know that at least once this complete failure of a human being got a good, brutal butt whooping. If you heard my voice change, it's most likely because, or well, it's because he said thus our fight began. I'm sorry, but thus is such an old word. All I imagine is like an old showdown with, I don't know, a movie scene. Like, I don't know, I just imagine the gladiators from Roman times fighting each other in a duel and having their hands on top as victors. I don't know why, that's the image that came into my head. It must have came into some other people's as well. But damn, this is why you do not pick on people, because one day you're gonna get beaten up. Anyways guys, that's the end of the video. Hope you guys like, comment, subscribe for daily Reddit videos. I think I'm gonna talk a bit more because I hate just reading videos because it just feels so boring. Peace out guys.